We just finished today's Beyond the Gates. It's Thursday, August 6, 2026. Let's jump into it. We start off over at Dani and Andre's house. Dani's looking at that designer that she's doing modeling for. She's looking at her latest collection, the designs for her latest collection. Andre comes in. It's the spring collection. So she's looking at the spring collection. They chit-chat about that. And then Andre talks about his conversation with Ted at the country club after the basketball game, and and how he was talking about his past and reflecting on who he was after his parents died and things that he did, and the man that he was post-accident isn't the man that he is now. And Dani just reassured him that she wouldn't judge him on his past. And I said this in yesterday's video, I believe, that at the beginning of their relationship, they both said, come with anything, just be honest, and, we'll figure it out. And I think Dani, especially given her little secret, is definitely wants to fulfill that promise. Now, they didn't get to continue that conversation because Chelsea busted in and interrupts them. And she tells them about how she had a conversation with Caroline at Uptown last night about Hayley, and, how Caroline kind of shut down mid-conversation because Chelsea was asking too many conversations. Dani was like, you can't trust Caroline. Like, you just can't trust her. She was all nice and smiley in my face, but she was, had a shovel ready to bury Bill's secrets. So, and that tracks because we've heard how Caroline talks about Dani, right? So we know that Caroline really cannot be trusted. She is all Bill all the way. During that conversation, Chelsea gets a phone call from her father because earlier when Bill was at the office, Caroline told him about her conversation with Chelsea. Caroline also asks, is everything okay with Hayley, with, Bill and Hayley's marriage? Bill is like, that's an inappropriate question. Caroline's kind of like, dude, I've covered up all your affairs. She doesn't say that, but that's basically what she meant. And he's like, I know we have a more familial relationship, but I don't want to, you shouldn't be asking these questions. And, Caroline's like, well, I haven't seen Hayley around here much. We don't hang out much. And Bill said, oh, yeah, well, she kept her job as a paralegal in the beginning because, she just wanted to, make it, basically not look like a gold digger. But now she's got more comfortable being a gold digger. So, she's never around, which is because the one thing I'm glad they did address that, because Hayley working at the office has been so inconsistent over the last year and change that I'm glad they finally just said, yeah, she's not she's not working anymore. She's just, that paralegal stuff is over. She's lady at a house. She's got the black card and she's spending Bill's money while also trying to kill him, except they don't know that yet. So Bill wants to meet Chelsea over at the club. Chelsea meets Bill over at the club. He tells her that it was inappropriate for her to be talking to someone that works for him about his marriage. Let's not do this. And then Chelsea just spills the beans. She's like, listen, we think Hayley is having an affair. Because Bill is like, you crossed the line. And she's like, you shouldn't be, Bill, you shouldn't be discussing personal matters with Caroline. And Chelsea's like, Hayley is playing you, Dad. We think she's having an affair with that Sammy guy. And Grandma thinks something happened between her and Kyle Abbott during the tornado. Chelsea just dumped it all out. So at least Bill can't say, well, nobody told me, as he's choking down his last bit of poison. And ultimately Bill just doesn't want to hear it. He gets up and he walks away and he's just like, I don't want to have this discussion. Don't do it again. He told Caroline to stay out of his marriage. So Bill is completely blinders on. Now, we also know why Bill is a little sensitive, and we'll get to that a little later. But, Bill's ego is going to send him to an early grave. So over at Uptown, at the booth right next to the front door, where Randy and Hayley are yet again discussing their plan to kill Bill, and nobody overhears it because, she's telling him how Bill doesn't want to fly to go to St. Bart's, and Randy's like, you've got to get him to St. Bart's. So he cannot die in Fairmont Crest. Like, it'll be too many questions. We got to get him to St. Bart's so that, he can die. We can get him cremated. There'll be no exam. And we got to get the guy the money to make sure that all happens. And Hayley's like, I want it all to happen. And I have to say that Hayley in this mode, and today especially, this is the Hayley, like the performance of Hayley today was so consistent. Like, this is the Hayley I've been waiting to see, the no holds bar. I am a criminal and I am going to this is just who I am. I'm not, there's no act, nothing. Like, she was just so good as Hayley today. Just amazing. And, so Hayley and Randy are talking about, and then Randy mentions that there are a bunch of people in Fairmont Crest that care about Bill and, might notice, like with him getting sick and stuff. And I thought he was going to refer back to his conversation with Vanessa, but he didn't, unless I missed it. So I was really surprised by that. But then Randy brings up a guy named Sid, one of their marks, and how Sid almost killed Hayley when he found out that she was conning him. Now, this would be a good time for Sid to pop up, because that's the thing that we've had a discussion about, that Hayley married, Val married Bill Hamilton, right? This well-known, respected DMV lawyer / fixer. Had an affair with him, he stole him from the wife, from his wife, who is part of the most prominent family, one of the most prominent families in the DMV, the Duprees. That ex-wife shot up the wedding, which was live streamed. How has none of Hayley's marks seen her in the newspapers, in the press, online, just because of her association with the Duprees and Bill Hamilton? So I'm hoping that now that they've brought up Sid is making his way to Fairmont Crest as well. But Hayley's plan is to, she's like, okay, well, when I get him to St. Bart's, and they're saying this all out loud in the restaurant, when I get him to St. Bart's, I'm going to give him a mega dose of the toxin. He's going to die, and I'm going to collect my $10 million. Randy's like, $5 million, because remember. And she's like, that's right, $5 million, and it's going to be funneled to these offshore accounts, and then, you'll get your, that's how I'll get you your share. And then she starts talking about the shared assets and bank accounts that she has with Bill here. And Randy's like, don't get greedy, just don't get greedy, because Hayley's plan is to never come back to Fairmont Crest. Like, Bill dies, she gets him cremated, I guess sends the ashes to Chelsea and Naomi, but she'll just be too grief-stricken to return to Fairmont Crest. And then she ultimately says, yeah, you're right. I don't want to battle Dani and Naomi and Chelsea for, Bill's estate and all that stuff. I'll take the $10 million. Because Randy's like, $10 million is more than enough. And I'm sure, if she's a con woman with any sense, any jewelry, all that expensive jewelry and stuff, she will pack in her suitcase to take to St. Bart's with her. And so she'll have that. So she'll have way over $5 million anyway. Nicole calls Carlton so that they can finish their conversation that Leslie interrupted in yesterday's episode. And so Carlton's like, yeah, I'm at Orphe Jean's picking up some lunch. Meet me over here. So they meet, and they're talking about, Nicole brings up Kyle spending the night and how Carlton was blindsided by that information. And he's like, listen, I knew what this was. I knew, I agreed to it. So you don't owe me any explanation. And Nicole's like, just be honest with me. And he talks about how his conversation with Tyrell gave him some clarity on where he is with her and how this arrangement is not working for him. He wants her to put him first. And he also talks about, and they did some good character work in this episode with a bunch of characters. And one of the things they did for me with Kyle and Nicole is really, not Kyle, Carlton and Nicole, is really better lay out why these two people started dating. Now, we all know, and it's still weird, but we all know, through dialogue, like they've talked about it, that Carlton has always had a thing for Nicole. He even talks about how he had a thing for Nicole, but he could never do anything about it because of Ted, and working with Ted at the hospital, and being his business partner, was always hard for him. Nicole admits that she always knew that Carlton had a thing for her, but she respects that he respected that he couldn't do anything about it because she was married to Ted. And then and she respects that he waited until after the divorce to go after her. But I'm like, he waited until after the anniversary party, like, to ask you to brunch or something. So, like, let's not rewrite history here. But he says, like, this arrangement just isn't working for me because I did this with Ted. You were married to Ted. I wanted you, and I had to work with Ted every day. I don't want to do this again. It's like a pattern I'm uncomfortable with. Now it's Kyle. Like, I would have to work with Kyle. You're with Kyle. I'm with Kyle. I'm working, in the hospital with Kyle. And I don't want to repeat that pattern for myself. I thought that was really good because he even said, he's like, I know who I am as a man. Not the direct quote, but really good character work for a character that I don't care that much about. But I thought it was really good character work. Now, I will say, well, let me get through this. Nicole says she's enjoyed her time with him, and he asks, well, why Kyle? And she says it was a fresh start. And it makes sense. And that's what I'm saying. They did some real character work, and they did some good job in writing and letting us know why these two people were even, like, together in the first place after the divorce. He was familiar, comfortable. She knew he wanted her. She's known all these years, so it was easy. It was just easy. But then Kyle felt fresh and new, and she gets to be this new version of herself without any of the baggage of the old version of herself, which I really like. And I know a lot of you have not enjoyed the Kyle, Carlton, Nicole stuff as a whole, with Nicole dating both men and sleeping with both men. That doesn't bother me at all. Like, that stuff, like, just doesn't bother me. I just didn't like Carlton. I thought the whole thing was weird. You're Ted's best friend. You've been lurking around for 30 years, or 30 years plus. It was just weird to me. It was weird that everybody was cool with it, but I think they did a good job today in really just fleshing out and talking about it. Ultimately, they decide that it's over. It's amicable. It's friendly. They still want to be friends. Carlton's like, you're not going to, like, you're not getting rid of me. Like, we're still going to be friends. The one thing, like, and I've been pretty consistent with this, like, yes, they're adult, like, they're in their 50s, they're adults, they're mature. So there is a level of maturity that is in play here with this breakup. But I'm hoping that this is, like, the turn of Carlton. If he's going to stick around, the turn of Carlton as a villain. Like, he needs to team up with Leslie, and not even so much as, like, to get Nicole back, but, like, Leslie, we'll talk about Leslie and Ted in a few minutes. Leslie's unhappy with Ted. Carlton clearly has had some built up animosity towards Ted over all these years. They need to team up because all this nicety with everybody, like, able to reconcile their differences and their conflicts so quickly, just is not that interesting to me. And it doesn't make me feel better about Carlton as a character. I mean, it's like, yes, it's nice and it's mature and all the things, but he's not interesting. And I think that's part of the other issue I've had with Nicole and Carlton, is just that he's not an interesting character. So this is the show's opportunity to make him interesting. I know they're finished with year 2, so who knows? I don't know what's ahead, but that's just, my point of view. So they part ways, and tomorrow Nicole will talk to Kyle about their relationship. Leslie makes a SOS call to Ted once again, and he's like, what is it? He was like, he's like, you can't keep calling me every time you think it's an emergency. And she's like, it's about Eva. So she goes over to the issue that Eva's having about her scar, and, and she wants Ted to fix it because I guess Eva didn't tell. I mean, we know in the scene that we watched, Eva didn't tell Leslie that she had a consultation with Carlton, but I thought it might have happened off screen, but it didn't. So she doesn't know that Eva talked to Carlton already. And Ted was like, and Ted laid out the same stuff that, Carlton did. It's too early. Her body needs to heal. She needs emotional support first. And even before I would be able to do anything, she would have to go through like a psychiatric evaluation to make sure she's ready for this type of, surgery. And it's too soon for her to go under the knife again. Anyway, her body's not healed. Like all the things she lays out to him. But Leslie is sticking her heels in. And he's telling her like her mind needs to catch up to her body. And she calls him a disgrace. And she thinks that he's calling Eva crazy, which he's not. And she calls him a disgrace, and she gets up and leaves. And she's making a scene in the country club. And he gets up, and he's like, "You're not going anywhere." And he basically says, "Sit your ass down," without the ass. And I don't know why they didn't let him say it. They allow each other. They call each other, not all the time, but they use the word bitch. Ass is allowed. It's allowed on television now. But they sit down and but I thought Ted was going to like really tell her off and really like, "Don't you ever call me a disgrace. Don't you ever call me a bad father. Don't you," because she was like calling him all kinds of like lousy man. And, and she even tried to insinuate that he wasn't there for her there for Eva when she was a child. And he's like, "I didn't know about her." And how she's never asked him for anything. So, but I'm assuming that she meant when Eva was a child. So he lays out all the things. I wish he had been more stringent with her, because people just coddle Leslie too much when they have conflict with her. And they need to do what Hayley did. Remember, Hayley grabbed Leslie by the arm and was like, "Mess with me and I'll mess you up." Like, that's really the energy that the Duprees and Ted need to be going at Leslie with. So basically, Leslie ends the conversation by saying, "I'll find another doctor who'll do it. And I'll go to, and I'll start with the one that's in your ex-wife's bed, Carlton. And, and I bet you he'll do it." So I'm sure we'll probably get a scene with Leslie and Carlton. And I'm hoping, that's why I brought up, like, let this be the villain turn for Carlton, because I'm hoping if Leslie and Carlton do share a scene together, it will it could spark an attraction, but it could also spark a partnership, which we desperately need. We need diabolical people to team up together. Dani heads over to Uptown to meet Tatum, but she sees Randy sing at the booth, and she's like, "I'm rooting for you two. I'm rooting for you." And she tells him that she thinks that he's having an affair with Hayley. She knows what they're up to. And Randy's like all confused because he thinks she knows the plan, but then he realizes, and she's like, "Sammy or Randy or whatever you're going by." And she tells him to keep having fun and wear Hayley out. She's like, "You can hear the joy in my face." So Randy is like, "Oh, so now I hope he's putting together the pieces because the actor who plays Randy likes to say how much like he's the brains and how much smarter Randy is than Joey. So I hope Randy is putting together the pieces. Oh, that conversation with Vanessa. Now, Dani, we got to get our asses, like, I might need to get out of town because these people are starting to like really zero in that something is going on between me and Hayley, and they might conclude that we could possibly harm Bill for his money and, run off together, because that's not a far leap to make. Like, you wouldn't go jump to the conclusion that these are two con people conning Bill, but you could jump to the conclusion that if Hayley's having an affair with Randy, they could ultimately decide that Bill is too much of a problem and getting in their way of a happily ever after. And if they could get rid of him, get his money, and run off together. What Naomi needs to find out is, one, about the prenup, and two, she needs to find out about the life insurance policy the next time she's digging in on his computer. And hopefully, if they do, because it sounds like in the spoilers, it says Hayley gets what she wants. So it sounds like Bill's going to agree to go to St. Barts. I hope Naomi uses that opportunity to look into the computer and she finds all the information, the prenup and the life insurance policy, and they start putting all the information together. Dani meets with Tatum. Tatum wants Dani's expertise and advice on the designs. Dani's like, I'm a model, I'm a momager, but I'm not a designer. But Tatum's like, I really do want your input. So we see Dani like going through some designs and giving her some advice, and Tatum's like, I really appreciate that. I'm going to take it all into consideration. So that was nice. Chelsea does text the group. So she did do that. She texts Kat and Dani and Naomi and is like, I told everything, but he doesn't believe me. So that's good. And then she runs into Andre and she thinks Dani sent Andre to check on her, but Andre's like, no. And, Andre, and so she downloads Andre on what happened. And he's like, listen, Bill's a defense attorney. It's in his natural instinct to defend Hayley, right? And to not believe the first argument put in front of him, plus his ego. He's not going to, he's like, I wouldn't, like if somebody came to me and said, Dani, your mother was having an affair, I wouldn't believe it. I would need evidence. So there might be a videotape out there for you, Andre. And then he's got a line about deep, dark secrets, which ding, 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 ding. And then he gets a text from an unknown number that says, I want to see you. We'll be in touch soon. And he also has in his dialogue the word ghost. So is it somebody he thinks died and now is back? Like, there's some, I think it's like ghosts from the past or something. So it could just be that. It could just be that term. But, I have an idea. I think you guys are right about who you think it is. And for me, it's a big thud, but I'll get to that in a minute. Bill goes home and Hayley is on the phone with a boutique and she notices him stumbling and bumbling and his vision is blurry. But she pretends not to see it. She pretends that, she doesn't see it. And then he gets himself together and they sit down and talk. And he tells her, they talk about Chelsea and how they think she's having an affair. And she goes into her act of, I just can't be around these people. It's just too much. It's just too much. And it's also today is the 1 year anniversary of her miscarriage. So that's also why Bill, I think, was super protective with her between Caroline and Chelsea today as well. Because, as far as Bill knows, there was a miscarriage. So she's sick of everybody and she wants to go to St. Bart. And it looks like Bill is going to relent. So that's, that. Now, in the spoilers tomorrow, and I double checked it, the spoilers tomorrow says Heather, Joey's sister, befriends Dani and Vanessa. So I think you guys are right. Heather is the person from Andre's past. I didn't want to believe it because how is it that Heather is the new character coming to the show making all the trouble? This sounds like a network thing. Quite honestly, this really sounds like a network thing to me. It sounds like this is the network wanted this because I just can't imagine. I just cannot imagine. And to me, it's just a big thud. It's just like, who the hell cares? I mean, we'll have to watch and see how it plays out and all that stuff, but I just don't care. Like, I don't care about Heather. I don't care about Heather and Joey. I don't care about Heather, Vanessa, and Joey. And I damn sure am not going to care about Heather and Andre. So, and Heather better keep her dirty paws off of our Dani because I do have a car. I'll charge it and I'll get to Fairmont Crest and I'll take care of the impaler herself. And I think that's the other thing with Heather. It's like we still have this impaler thing, weighing over us, and I don't give a damn about that either, but they're going to still tell that story. So that was it. Good episode, a good story movement. It looks like we're, again, leading somewhere with the Kill Bill story. It looks like we're accelerating. A lot of anniversaries this week. The same day, which is weird that it's the same day the Articulate, because this is the same day as yesterday's episode, that the Articulates reunion happened on the same day as Hayley's miscarriage. Can somebody confirm, can we go back and confirm that those two things happened on the same day? Because remember, was it just like earlier in the day? Because Dani was at Uptown with Hayley when she came out in all that blood. Did Dani then go to concert that night. I guess that's possible, but I just don't remember it all happening on the same day in the show. But, I'm old. My memory could be going. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching my videos as Ed talks television.